Thanks for staying with us. Now, Heritage Day is more than just about clothes, food, songs. It's also around this time when words like legacy and history also come up. But what does this day, mean to a lot of South Africans? Does it still even have meaning? Let's speak to cultural expert and Heritage Development Trust Executive Director, Professor Musa Xulu. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time this evening. What should Heritage Day mean to South Africans?
Perhaps, thank you, Bongi. Perhaps let me start from the beginning. Why and how we arrived at the 24th of September. On the 24th of September, 1828, King Shaka, the founder of the modern Zulu nation, was killed by members of the royal family at KwaDukuza at his palace there. In 1928, it was 100 years of commemoration, and Pixley Saraseme, John Dube, working with King Solomon of the Zulu nation, decided that King Shaka should be honored every 24th of September, and they call it Shaka's Day. On the 24th of September 1954, the King Shaka monument in KwaDukuza was unveiled. And ever since that, the 24th of September in the Zulu nation has been regarded as King Shaka Day. But then what happened when we entered into the democratic dispensation, and the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi became a Minister of Home Affairs, where the holidays are decided. He took a submission to Cabinet to ask for the recognition of the 24th of September as Shaka's Day throughout the country. Of course, Cabinet then had discussions around this and arrived at that to be inclusive, for everybody to be part of this celebration, commemoration of our past. Let us call it a Heritage Day, but individual regions are free to have their own versions of what they commemorate. That is the status quo. Now, what has happened is that, of course, heritage, you must remember, is a relative of history. Those are the things from our past that we decide to take to our present and even into the future generations. It gets passed on from generation to generation in the form of knowledge, in the form of traditions, in the form of customs, in the form of geographic names, rivers, etc., in the form of even names of people, in the form of even names of homesteads. Sometimes you have all of that. It's a collection of all these memorized items from our past, which define how we look at the world today as a result of our inheritance from our past. And it becomes, yes.
I suppose when one looks at, the preservation, Prof, is that one other aspect of it, some of the heritage sites which are meant to be telling the story of our history. Some of them are lying in ruins and others are functioning properly. But let's talk about those that are lying in ruins and how much of a detriment this is, particularly when it comes to our history.
Well, it has been one of the tragedies of the modern day South Africa that the heritage sites, in many cases, even Robben Island, there's been lots of complaints that it's not being looked after. You go to Pretoria, there is a monument, a museum of built for 200 million rands, but it has never been occupied and is deteriorating as we speak now. Well, it shows maybe it could be lack of understanding from those who are in charge of running heritage issues about the importance of heritage and national identity and the preservation of our past. Or it could be just negligence and incompetence. It could be any one of those. Now, if you have heritage sites and you don't look after them, it's the same as having water reservoirs and you don't look after them. It's the same as any other infrastructure that you decide that you're not going to maintain. It deteriorates. And with deterioration goes the history of the people, goes the past legacies of the people, goes the sense of identity of the people. Now, a people without proper identity are likely to have very low or very confused value systems. If those value systems come in, then we will have possibly lots of crime, as a result of not knowing Ubuntu, Ngabantu, and those a combination of knowledge systems that help us sustain ourselves collectively and as individuals on a day-to-day basis. It's tragic because I've been reading in newspapers that there's lots of heritage sites that are not being kept here in South Africa, especially after 1994.
And Prof, very briefly then, when it comes to the issue that you raised earlier on, which is around the issue of inclusivity. Deputy President Paul Musa Xulu, for example, in his address, calling for unity among citizens and that the country must uphold non-racialism and to celebrate diversity. But looking at South Africa and the contentions that we continue to see in this current South Africa, is this a possibility?
Well, with more determination, yes, it could be possible. But I think in the past number of years, we've drifted apart more than we were, for example, during the years of President Mandela, whose main theme was reconciliation, peace, development. It needs to be managed. It can't happen on its own. And those who manage it need to be deliberate about it and not do it as just another issue. Heritage, when it is well managed, and reconciliation, when it is well managed, will lead to more development in the country, economic development, social development. And you can rest assured that you are empowering human resources of the country. But as I say, we have started drifting away. We only mention social cohesion once a year in September. It should be in the schools. It should be every day. It should be on a day-to-day basis that we emphasize the issue of creating one nation with a cultural diversity such as we have here in South Africa.
And I hope at some point we get to talk about social cohesion because, you know, for example, one thinks back to that social cohesion summit when the now Deputy President Paul Musa Xulu was the Minister of Arts and Culture and he was in charge of that. So where does then the sticky points lie when it comes to making sure that, as you say, this one South Africa is created? But let me thank you for your time and hopefully one day we get to talk about this. That was cultural expert and Heritage Development Trust Executive Director, Professor Musa Xulu.